Right now, everybody present here is our present because we're going to do a collective effort until everybody else get here and start this initiative. Peace.
Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
Peace. Lethal injection, shattering the misconception of those whose perception is distorted by propaganda, scripted and misdirected in a direction not of its own choosing. So much confusion with illusions are composed, a masterful deception, therefore our objective is to correct it, expose the real that exists within this concrete and steel. These American tales will assail your mind, shine light on the darkness of unawareness, reveal that there is more to these penitentiaries than disease minds, confined for a time until their lives end. And here live men who contend with the pen that the American crime must end. For isn't the human race to win? And getting innocence or relevant in light of the offense against humanity, call it the American tragedy, aggravated assault and battery, broken families with shattered dreams, casualties of an eternal war. Young black male coming from the store with a bag of Skittles, gets riddled with shots by a wannabe cop. Racial profiling, and life is supposed to be priceless. Why is the medical care for the less fortunate disproportionate to that of those born with white skin? Racial discrimination. A trial by jury. Surely the term a jury of your peers should be more praxis than theory. Hear ye, hear ye. Racial injustice. Drinking malt liquor, smoking weed, drinking liquor till you hiccup, smoking weed, slinging rocks, busting shots over blocks that are not yours. What for? A slice of the American pie, due by an American lie. You've been deceived to believe this is the only way a black man can achieve racial indoctrination. Black people are some ignorant acts. They need the authority of slave masters. Just look at their savage way of living. We need to build more prisons. Why not enlighten them? Hell no. Better to J. Edgar Hoover than COINTELPRO. Racial hatred, the victimization of a nation focused on world domination. Nothing is sacred, save for the power of the almighty dollar. Affix the necks like a slave collar, they holler. Give me the loot, I'll scream, don't shoot. Just give me a chance to explain our pain. We're just pawns in the game, striving to promote. We have sacrificed our souls on this road of perdition, so listen to this lethal injection of experiential wisdom. Wise words being spoken to open the third eye to a new point of view, one that is not askew, but rather a panoramic insight. This literary montage will incite innovative thoughts, bridging the gap between the prisoner's plight and the American plight, which in many ways are synonymous. So please consider the admonishment of the inside man, expressing a matter of concern, just a thought for those concerned with the enrichment of humankind, engaging the human mind, so no, we're not just doing time. We refuse to be buried alive without uttering a word. That is absolutely absurd. Instead, the ink of our pens reflect the tears that we have wept in this mausoleum of death, you see. Too many years have passed. Too many have been electrocuted and gassed, put to sleep with a shot to breathe their last. So I ask, what would you have us do other than what we have done? And that is start the lethal injection revolution. The voice of death row is here. The piece that I just recited is representative of us on death row here in North Carolina. And man, from the source, it expresses our concerns not only for our loved ones, but our communities and the world as a whole as well. It is also a declaration to the world to not let us be forgotten, as we definitely have not forgotten you. So I say to you today, Harlem, sweet Harlem, Harlem with you, its beautiful people, Harlem with its unique history and rich culture, Harlem with its worldwide fame in the Apollo Theater in Rucker Park, Harlem with its pain on every street corner that has claimed the life of one of our sons and daughters. Oh, Harlem, home of the unsung who sing the inner city blues, it is time we change our tune. For our success stories are few, while our woes are many. A sad condition that is generational. For it has been reported that statistically, inner city youth begin life at a disadvantage. Most are raised in single-parent homes where the mother is either unemployed or underemployed due to the factors of her race and gender and the situational circumstances of her life. And also, and this factor cannot be overlooked, that the father is absent mainly due to incarceration. This type of setting is most likely to, and has in fact done so in many cases, mar a child's perspective of their own future. And it is said that our children don't do as we say, but rather as we do. Now, while this is not emphatic, in many cases it holds true. So it is we have children of people who are high school dropouts, unemployed, underemployed, criminals, drug addicts, etc., who tend to grow up to be the same as their parents. Then making matters worse are the impoverished conditions in which they live, and also them being subjected to the negative influence of criminal elements that are commonplace in inner city neighborhoods. Now, considering these circumstances, it is no wonder that the people of these communities, the vast majority of whom are black and Hispanic, are tangled in the web of recidivism. From the youngest of ages, this is the plight of our children, so much so that it has been termed the school-to-prison pipeline, which simply put is saying our youth are on a dead-end course to prison. It is saying prison is their destiny. Now hold up a minute. Let me repeat that. It is saying prison is their destiny. Now that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, this is the sad reality we live with, that before the age of 18, many of our youth have criminal records, and if they manage to survive the violence of the streets until the age of 21, they make that rite of passage in a prison cell. Now here is a fact for you. According to the Bureau of Statistics, 1 in every 3 black male babies born in this century is expected to be incarcerated. Sadly, that includes my young grandson, so that definitely doesn't sit well with me. Now, while there is more than one cause to this problem, to even begin to conceive of a solution requires we look to the root of it. So as Greek philosopher Plato wrote, with anything young and tender, the most important part of the task is the beginning of it. For that is the time at which the character is being formed and the desired impression more readily taken. So we've all heard it said that our children are the future. There's even a song that extols these words. You know the song. It's popular for being sung at graduations all around the world. At any rate, the refrain is this: our children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Yes, our children are indeed our future. In fact, it is the natural order of things that they replace us in the world with the passage of time. For example, an older basketball player is replaced by a younger player who is more capable physically. An old doctor whose hand shaped with arthritis is replaced by a young doctor with a steadier hand. And parents provide for their children, and in turn, when they grow old, their children provide for them. This changing of the guard is quite normal. So consider this. If an ill-trained guard trains a new guard, the likely outcome is obvious, and it is only inevitable that in time the quality of the guard will deteriorate. This is what is happening with us. Our children are ill-prepared to face the challenges of today's world. Sure, they are tech-savvy with texting and Skyping and are well-versed in the latest music and styles of fashion. However, when it comes to being a productive part of society, they are lacking. Instead of advancing themselves and their communities, our sons are killing one another, and our daughters, many of whom are still children themselves, are left alone to raise yet more fatherless children. So the question for us is, what can we do about it? We can begin with strengthening the values and principles of our youth. And how, you may ask, is this to be done? Well, there are several options that can be considered. But the one I recommend is chess. Yes, you heard me correctly, chess. Though just a game compared to any other, its rules and principles are the most applicable to real-life situations. It instills discipline and improves the ability to think, things that are conducive to being successful in life. It also builds character, something that is greatly needed among many in today's world, where debauchery and immorality are the accepted norm. But chess, it inspires the opposite, evoking a deeper appreciation for life. So to that end, I propose to you today the Chessboard to Boardroom initiative, a life skills building program that uses chess as its medium and is based upon 8 principles, which will be explained in detail later. However, at this point, I would like to call your attention to the first of them. It is know yourself. You see, teaching this to our children is the first step in preparing them to be successful in life. For when children know who they are, their dreams of who they want to be become aspirations, and those aspirations become achievable dreams. Thank you. Before I go any further, I want to let you all know that we are approaching the 60-second mark where the phone call will be terminated. So I'm going to call back at this moment.
You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. This call is from
Rodney Taylor,
an inmate at Central Prison. This call will be monitored and recorded. For customer assistance, collection, or complete procedures, or to block future calls, dial 1-866-230-7761. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Peace again to the people. I want to thank each and one of y'all for coming out here today. Especially my mother, Dolly Taylor John, my son, Rodney Taylor Jr., and his girlfriend, Tamara Antonio, and my grandson, Jaquil Oliver. I also want to thank my son's mother, Tia Williams Taylor, and her family. I want to thank you all for your support. My only wish is that I could be there to see your faces. But know this, my heart is there with you all. Not just today, but always. Because New York City is my home, and home is where the heart is. Now I want you all to hear me. I was one of those fatherless children. And for nearly 2 decades, I've been an absentee father due to my incarceration. And also, sadly, I'm one of those sons whose life was lost as a result of a Harlem street corner. Disadvantaged and misguided, I fell victim to the streets, and now here I sit on death row, a casualty of the inner city blues. But I'm not here to lament my situation. My concern is those stumbling upon the path behind me, today's young people. As you all see, that this is called the Inner City Gambit. The program that we're promoting is the Chessboard to Boardroom initiative. The United States Chess Federation has a mission, and its mission is to empower people through chess one move at a time. And its vision is to enrich the lives of all persons and communities through increasing the play, study, and appreciation of the game of chess. About 4 years ago, I had the good fortune to meet some people from an organization called Hidden Voices. In general, their objective is social and penal reform. And they have a saying that goes, stories create pathways. Stories inspire change and open minds. Stories make change possible. Well, they came into death row with the intention of taking our stories and sharing them with the world in an effort to improve conditions and disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline. It was working with these people that I came to see that their belief about stories affecting change was true. And for the next 3.5 years, we had think tank sessions, and they asked us a question. The question was, what do we hope to see achieved in society? And one of the things that I wanted to see achieved in society was better mentorship programs for our youth. Because I was one of those who was unfortunate to be misguided and not have the proper influences in my life. So throughout the project, that's been my objective and my goal. And shortly after that, I saw the movie Life of a King, which is about a man named Eugene Brown who was from Washington, D.C. area. After spending decades in prison, he was released, and he used chess as a way to turn his life around and also inspire change in the lives of others. So after seeing this movie, I figured maybe we could do the same thing through the program with Hidden Voices. So I asked the staff member to reach out to Mr. Eugene Brown and get his address so I could write him. We already had a chess program here, so I figured if we could get him to come in with us and work with us, we could create a program to mentor youth through the game of chess. Well, as it turns out, instead of getting his address, the staff member arranged for Mr. Brown to come to the prison to visit with us. And he did so several times. And through this association with Mr. Brown was birthed Death Row Gambit, a bootleg prison book where it contained a compilation of our games, essays relating chess to life, and profiles of the men who participated in the tournament and how chess has in fact impacted their life. That evolved into the deathrowgambit.com, a blog which focuses on the same content. And now that has evolved into Chessboard to Boardroom initiative, a life skills building program, as I mentioned, that's based upon 8 principles. But I want to back up to the movie. The movie itself is inspirational. So at this point in this presentation, I would like to turn the services over to Father Supreme and have him show the movie. I hope you all enjoy it. and I hope you are inspired as I am. And afterwards, we'll talk more about the program and open the floor for Q&A.
Peace.
The movie runs for about 101 minutes, so I'll be calling perhaps about 5:30 or around about. Peace.
All right, first I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know time is definitely important for all of us. So if you took the time out to be here, we all appreciate it, as well as Forever 360. Now, me and the brother Forever 360, we build a lot of times over the phone. We even play chess. We have chess games. So when the Chessboard to Boardroom initiative was introduced to me from him, I was just 100% on board with it, because we already had the relationship of playing, and me and my daughter, who is Queen Asia, she has been my assistant in helping me with instructing the youth. Now, the Chessboard to Boardroom, Forever 360 has a manual, which is a structured idea on how to play chess and how to incorporate it in every way of life, whether you're just waking up in the morning or whether you're sitting down and actually playing the chess. So what I wanted to do right now was to just give y'all a demonstration of how we're going to incorporate chess not only into a program, but also into our everyday life. Now, me and my daughter, this is our everyday life. So the first step that he has in this is know yourself. Now, in knowing yourself, that would be the first principle in making any move in life. Whether you going to work in the morning, you have to know where you're going, know who you are. So in chess, we incorporated that as being the first principle. So as I speak about it, I'm going to have my daughter move the chess pieces. Y'all can actually see it from up on the screen if she's blocking your way. But we're just going to do it step by step. So for all of those who are not familiar with chess, you have white and you have black, right? On the white side, normally with the rules of the game, the white side would move first, and then the black side would counter the move. So in this instance, my daughter, she would be the white pieces and I would be the black pieces. So Queen Asia, you can make a move, whatever move you choose. Okay, now she chooses to make that move, and I choose to make the move G6. Now, right there, me just telling her to move G6, if I'm telling that to someone who don't have the knowledge of the game, they couldn't move. They wouldn't know where to move, right? So that's why the first step is knowing the rules of the chess game. Know yourself. If you're sitting down with the chess game, then that means that you got to know the rules to play the game. So what we just displayed was that the person who is my daughter who's sitting down, she has the knowledge of how to move the pieces. Now the second principle is always think before you move. Now, Queen Asia, you can make another move, baby. Now, why did you make that move? To back up your pawn, which is the first move you made. Okay. So, in living out that principle, always think before you move, she made the first move. And the first move was to move her pawn up. So now her second move is to back up that pawn so that that pawn won't be infiltrated or killed. So in the principle of always think before you move, we can utilize that in everyday life. Always think before you leave your house. always think before you even put on your shirt. Because if you're thinking positive, when you put on your shirt in the morning, you can really take over the day with that before you move. So that would be the second principle in incorporating it with chess. The third principle is always be patient. That's kind of self-explanatory, but when you incorporate it in chess, you have to be patient in order to see what your opponent is doing. Now, in life, this is the beauty about chess, is how you can incorporate it to all walks of life. If you don't think you have an opponent when you wake up, that's on you. I wake up with an opponent all the time. And that opponent that I do have is in opposing to my energy that I am looking to put into the world. So I have to be patient and actually see my opponent move sometimes before I make my move. So always being patient is very important in making moves in general. So if we're going to incorporate it on the chessboard, there's so many people who make fast moves. And even though they could be chess experts, when you're moving fast, you kind of miss something. You know, so what the patience do will kind of slow you down so you can see the whole board for what it is and not what it appears to be. For instance, Queen Asia, how many squares is on the chessboard? 64. How many squares don't have pieces on them? 32. Right? And how many squares got pieces on them? 32. So, in being patient, you can analyze that whole view system and know before you make a decision, you have to cover all 64 squares. Not just the 32 squares that your pieces is on, or not just the 32 squares that your opponent pieces is on, but the whole 64 squares in entirety. And then that's when you can get a better decision for yourself. And the next principle is always move with a purpose. Now, we can incorporate this in chess and everyday life. If you don't have a purpose in your move, then your move, it won't have no effect. Every move has something called a cause and effect when it has a purpose. So when you're making a move, you have to have a particular purpose for where this piece is going and what it is going to do. Whether it's going to be in benefit for you, or is it going to be in benefit for your opponent? Now, how I incorporate chess and teach chess, there is something called a bad move. There are bad moves, there are good moves, and there's moves that are just pointless. And in me incorporating my moves in chess, I incorporated my moves in myself. When I come out of my house, what is my purpose? If my moves, when I come outside my house, is in discordance with my purpose, then I'm not living to my purpose. So if I'm out, when I leave my house, if I'm directly focused on my purpose, then that's when I'm living out. And these are the things that we are going to incorporate into the chess program so the youth can actually see their thought before the move. A lot of our youth nowadays are not really thinking of the move, they're just moving. So you just want to bring them back just a little bit and just have them take that first step with a purpose. So if you acknowledge a purpose, then you can go and live that out. And these are the moves that we are doing on the chessboard. Every chess piece has its own particular laws, has its own particular moves. Just like individuals, we all are bounded by our own individual laws. So in order to respect the next piece, they all have to be in accordance with each other's laws. So chess is life for me, and chess is life for my brother 360. So what we're just trying to do is incorporate it into our youth so that they can grow up and have something of substance to use with other youth. The next one is use your time wisely. We kind of know that's self-explanatory. You know, we could use our time for any things that we desire. That's the beautiful thing about our time, is that whatever you use your time for, it's on your likeness. You know, I chose this to be my time for me and my child to be here and show how chess is our way of life. Because time is showing outside of ourselves that if you're not thinking before you move, or you're not being patient, or you don't have knowledge of yourself, you can lose your life. You can lose your life. I was going to say lose a game, but this is not a game. Life is not a game. So you can lose your life if you don't have your principles in order. So with chess being a board game with principles that are like life principles, if we can take a board game principles and incorporate it into everyday life, then the youth can be able to grab those principles and hold on to them. The next one we have is be willing to make sacrifices. In chess, when I'm teaching the youth, they don't want to lose a piece. They want to hold on to the piece, like, no, don't take my piece. But, you know, and I have to teach them about sacrifices, about being able to give away a piece for a better position. Knowing that you could lose a piece for a better position is better for you. Now, in playing chess, you have 16 pawns. The pawns are the small pieces in the front because they have the most potential. Now, the pawns have the most potential. The bigger pieces in the back has the most power. So on the chessboard, you have potential and you have power. Which in life, you have our young who has all the potential in the world to be whatever. And then behind them, you have the family structure. And then the family structure actually backs up the pawns. So in the chessboard, the pieces in the back are the powerful pieces, which is how we run our structure, our family structure. I'm the father to my daughter. I am her foundation. So she's the pawn and I'm in the back, securing, make sure everything is okay. So in incorporating the chessboard to our life decision making, it is very important for us to know the pieces and their laws the same way we have our own laws and we're making our own moves out in this world. We'll go to the next. The next one is view every experience as a learning experience. In teaching chess, it's very important to let all the youth know, or the adults, that when you lose a chess game, it's not a loss. You're supposed to learn from the experience of losing. The same thing when I was taught about fighting. If I lost a fight, you can't just stay down. You got to get back up and learn how to fight better. So that's how chess is. That's how the chess is incorporated, and striving to get individuals to understand a loss is not the end of the world. Death is. But when you take a loss, you're supposed to use it as energy to get a win. So we are to view every experience as a learning experience. Now, the last principle that is very important, and one of the most important to me, is always be a team player. Now, And being a team player, right? Everyone has a particular role to play. On the chessboard, you are your team. You have to be able to make every piece move in the same together. You have to make every piece move together. But you're the team, just you. You're the team. So you have to have your skill set in order to have all the pieces work together. If you have experience with the chessboard, you can see how people, they would just put the queen as the most powerful piece. And they want to bring her out just because she's strong and powerful, but that's their only powerful piece. And when players play that way, they seem to lose when they play an opponent that knows all of his pieces. A pawn is no different than the queen, because the pawn has the potential to be the queen. The queen does not have the potential to be a pawn, because she's too valuable. So she doesn't have that potential. So we can't just bring our queen and just put her on pawn time, because she's not. But the pawn has the potential to be the queen. So that's why the pawns are the ones with the most potential, because they are in the front line. The same thing like our youth. They have the most potential, and they are on the front line. Our youth are on the front line. And it's for us as the power pieces in the back, the kings, the queens, the knights, the bishops, and the rooks. It's for us to make sure that that pawn gets to be a queen, or gets to be a castle, or gets to be a rook. Because if that pawn makes it to the other side, that pawn graduates into any powerful piece you want. You can pick whatever piece you want on there. The pawn don't got to be a queen. It could be whatever powerful piece you choose. And it is the same exact thing with our youth and their potential. So, with the help of the people here who are supporting, we are striving to get this program in play for our youth, so that they could just basically have a structure and a principle for thinking before you move. And we don't need 100 youth. If we could get 5, that's a start. You know what I mean? We could get 2, that's a start. I got 1. I'm adding on with mine. I got 1. So, if we all could, bring a youth, then we can do it ourselves. Then that youth bring another youth, they like it, So that's what I have to offer in explaining the chessboard to boardroom. And I thank everyone again for coming by and listening to what Forever 360 had to offer, and the rest of us. Thank you.